is one of the people who have been in the forefront, and they're documenting what has been happening. But let's bring out my guest for tonight, because we, as Standard Group and KTN, had invited the following guests on air tonight. We had invited JM John Waiganjo. He is a commissioner of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, and he had confirmed attendance of the show tonight. However, just like yesterday, a government official decided not to attend a show or a TV discussion after confirming he too tonight is a no-show. Without explanation, he's not picking our phone calls, neither is he making any attempts to inform us why he is not coming for the show tonight, after IPOA had confirmed that they indeed will be in the show tonight. There has been massive human rights abuses in the last 3 weeks with the protests that have been going on, and we wanted to know exactly what IPOA is doing in relation to protecting, documenting, prosecuting the people who have been involved in the violation, and specifically the police officers. However, JM Waiganjo is a no-show tonight, so as a sign of disrespecting the show tonight, we're going to leave that seat here so that he knows that is where he was supposed to sit. But as always, the show must go on. Hussein Khalid, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Ken, for having me. It's a pleasure.
This is the kind of things that the Gen Z have been fighting about. I mean, a government official paid by the taxpayers' money, confirming that they're going to come to discuss matters that are so key to Kenyans, decides that I'm not going to show up after confirming himself.
Very disappointing indeed. I was also looking forward because I had questions myself to ask of IPOA, and I was hoping that at this show we'll be able to get responses. So I'm equally extremely disappointed, but as you said, we have to change this country, and this is how we will change the country. Today, in the 7 days of protest, was to shine a spotlight, to name and shame some of these officers who are absconding their duties and not delivering on their mandates. So hopefully this is an extension of the day and the proceeds of the day.
Exactly. So let's talk about first the figures. What are the figures? What do they look like? What has been documented in terms of human rights violation in the last 3 weeks?
In the last 3 weeks, the numbers as we have them, and we continue to receive more details as days go by. Killings are at 41. We had a challenge in identifying some of the bodies which were taken to morgues and mortuaries in different parts of the country as unknown. And some of them were taken there as, murder cases and such kinds of issues, only for relatives to later come up and say, this is our kin, and he was, at the protest, or he was at this place, and so saw him being attacked or something like that. So the numbers presently, as we are talking, we are at 41, and we're still across the country. Yeah. In terms of those that are missing, of course, this changes by the day. As soon as we are able to confirm someone has been returned, we're removing that from the list. But, from the beginning, the numbers were quite high. From the first days, it's almost just below 50. But now, those who are missing as we speak presently, that we can confirm the families are still in search of these individuals, is 16. The number of those injured is well over 350 across the country. But then again, as we said, we can't truly ascertain exactly how someone got injured, whether it's in the protest or any other place. But as we speak, those that we've been able to follow up, and they have confirmed that they were either in the protest or they've been hit by a policeman or any other individual within the circumstances of the protest, are over 360.
Over 3, staggering figures.
Correct.
Are mostly attributed to the excesses of people who ordinarily should be protecting Kenyans.
Correct. As we all know, the primary duty and responsibility of ensuring security within the country falls squarely within the National Police Service. This is their duty, this is their responsibility. Personally, I can speak about the postmortems that myself and my team have directly witnessed. I think these were about 16 or 17 cases. And majority of those cases, almost 10 of those cases, were death caused by gunshots. You know, so someone overbleeds because of the gunshot wounds. We also have quite a high number of blunt force trauma induced injuries, and then that led, of course, to death. So yes, you can say that from the number of cases that we have received, we cannot rule out the role of the police in some of those killings that have now come to light before Kenyans and what is happening all around us.
Okay. We will decide tonight also to open the lines for Kenyans who would like to contribute to our discussion, because this is about them. So the phone numbers to call will be scrolling on your screen, and if you have a contribution to this discussion, because the show is done for you, you are welcome to make your contribution, especially on how to make this country a better place. So the phone lines will be scrolling shortly on your screen, and if you have a point to make, a question to Hussein you want to ask or ask me, we'll be here to respond to them. But let's talk about, it's very difficult, Hussein, to talk about the violations without our IPOA. Because what Kenyans really needed to understand tonight is these rogue policemen who have been captured on camera. What is happening to them? Have investigations begun? On your end, what are you doing about this? Does it fall under some of the things you do?
You know, the good thing about the Gen Zs, and as you know, Mijungu, I have been in civil society for many years, and we've participated in protests and demonstrations and picketing in many instances. But what's different about this is that the Gen Zs themselves have taken that mantle of leadership, and they have said they will directly contribute to the affairs, not just of the protest, but of the country too. So even when now it came to light that there were police officers who were engaging in excessive use of force, we have seen this so openly. They have presented the evidence. They have done, you know, the police, the IPOAs, and the state who have always been asking, so where is the evidence that the police have done it? It is now in black and white. This is something we must truly commend the Gen Zs. You know, they were out there with their phones, so no one can actually run away if you are engaged in any form of lawlessness. It was captured by the phones. And that information or those videos, it's all over. We've seen the police officer, for example, shooting the tear gas canister at the journalists.
Yes.
And we have that very well captured. And in case for any reason you don't know who that officer is, the Gen Zs have done the homework for you. They've given you their name, their rank, their age, which unit they're working in which police station. Everything is so clearly out there. So these are the questions we are asking the institutions like IPOA, like the DCI, like the Internal Affairs Unit within the police service, which is charged with the responsibility of following up on any excesses that are committed. What are you waiting for? You're charging protesters, we've seen today 180 plus, you know, but we have had this very clear evidence before you for over a week. What have you done with that information that the Gen Zs have so generously provided and gave, you know, threw it on your doorstep for you to take action?
Can that evidence, without getting the recorder or for the person who recorded it to come to court, can it stand? Is the threshold different, especially because it's from the protests? I
think that's now a question for the DPP to move in now. Now that becomes the next step. But in fact, you know, prima facie evidence, that is, you know, the evidence that you have before you is very clear. And I think with that particular evidence, you need to see action. And let's remember, Ken, we are at a not tipping point exactly, but we're at a very, I would say, a precarious moment. At this point in time, we need the justice institutions to actually show Kenyans that they're doing something about the situation. It cannot be that information, evidence is being thrown at you and there is simply no action being taken. Justice should not just be done, but also should be seen to have been done. So when this information is presented to you, when the Gen Zs have clearly told you, this is the person who is behind this, these are the individuals who are doing this, you need to see some action so that then people can feel, okay, it's not just one-sided. We're not just pointing fingers at individuals, but we are actually doing something, even on the other side, when the law enforcement agencies break the law.
One of the most difficult conversations to have tonight is why this had to happen if they had to wait for this long to react. The president over the weekend on Sunday said the military will not be on the street. And yesterday, they were not on the street. We don't know about tomorrow. But the question is, the excessive force that we saw is one of the reasons that the Senate today is saying that while you're shedding off the excess baggage, let the IG or police go. Is it going to happen that people are going to take responsibility? And from your organization, what is the plan with this? How far can you push it for Kenyans?
I belong to the school of thought, Mijungu, that believes the Inspector General has very clearly, in this particular instance, failed to deliver on his mandate. I think we had police officers running amok all over the place. And for me, what is also very disturbing are scenes from all over the country of complacency and laxity and deliberate ignorance of what was happening, you know, and police inaction to stop what has now been clearly confirmed to be criminal elements that have infiltrated the protest. I think there are videos from Mombasa, for example,
yes,
where we could clearly see goons attacking businesses, goons attacking vehicles.
Yes. We have the video, if you can play it, Karen.
And less than 100 meters away,
yes,
there was a truck with police officers.
Exactly.
And they were simply watching and doing nothing, you know? So you ask yourself, why would law enforcement agencies who are charged with the responsibility of ensuring peace and security openly see individuals, you know, acting in such unlawful manner, and then they're just watching and doing nothing? And it wasn't just in Mombasa. We had the same claims in Nairobi, you know, where people were seen attacking businesses. It came to a point where business owners had to take up that responsibility for themselves. And I think today, is it Kisii, the business community came out and said, we ourselves will protect our businesses because the police have decided to do nothing when our businesses are being attacked. So for me, that's a very clean slate for the Inspector General to step aside, because he has failed.
But the question is, will he? I sat here with the Inspector General of Police, and at that time I said the opposition was calling on him to leave, and at one point I think he was even threatened that he will be taken to the ICC, but he remained put. Those are the kind of impunity, for example, that the young people of this country are talking about and calling them out right now. Because if you're the Inspector General of Police, who carries that weight of what happens to the people of Kenya?
I think what I can say, Ken Mijungu, is that this country is changing. Kenya, in fact, has changed for the better. And we are not going to go back to those days of impunity. Who actually thought that the finance bill will be rejected, that the president will not assent? No one. I think 2-3 weeks ago, everyone was so clear that, you know, these people will push through with this thing, and we will have it as a bill. It will come and we will have it as an act. The president will assent and it will be implemented. Who actually believed that the president will refuse to assent because of the pressure that he will be under? No one believed that.
Who actually believed that the Senate would go against the president?
Exactly. And speak so openly and boldly against, you know, what has happened in the last couple of weeks. So at this point in time, I would ask public officers to be extremely careful with how they execute their mandates.
Yeah.
When you fail to protect lives and property, it's on you as an individual. And this generation that we are dealing with is not the older generation that will just say, oh, they will not resign, they will just do this. These people will speak up and will push you and will put pressure
The
for you to leave
the
the
pictures
offices.
we are seeing right now,
Yes.
Khalid, this is in Mombasa. You can see the genuine demonstrators, the young people,
Yep.
as standing aside,
Are just watching.
in disbelief what is happening
Yep.
on the other side. And these are the people that have been said are rioting.
And you know what they are attacking is a state institution. That's the post office.
Yes.
Why would you do that? You know, and for what purpose, really? What
post office.
Yeah, that's a post office. That's Mombasa Posta. And you ask yourself, what is their intention by attacking the post office? You know, and you can see, as you've said, the genuine protesters are shocked and dismayed, because you arrest those protesters and you leave those goons. And all you can do is to display pictures, some of them not even clear, and tell us these are the people that we are looking for. I mean, you are the state, you have that clear evidence. Why don't you arrest this individual? Why didn't you arrest them even in the first place? I think not very far from there is where we had the attack, where the cars were torched, I don't know, a gas cylinder was lit and all that. And these are the questions we are asking. The OCS Central Police Station, Mombasa, what answer did you get from your officers when you asked them, why did they just stand and watch as people's cars were torched, as properties were being destroyed? We saw that businessman coming out with his gun, you know, basically doing the work of the police who were merely 50 meters or 100 meters away. I mean, what is happening in this country? And then you tell us that you don't know who those people are, when you are acting so openly in violation of your duties and responsibilities to protect and to serve. I think there is more to it than just that.
Okay. Paint for us the picture tonight. You are in the forefront of Occupy Parliament. You have seen what has been happening in this protest. Paint for us the picture of what you have seen and documented on the street.
I think for me, first of all, I want to inform the nation, our beloved brothers and sisters across the country, that we are in unprecedented times. We are living in unprecedented times. Never in the history of Kenya and Africa in general have we seen such a movement, an uprising, an awakening of minds, and particularly young minds, that have then decided we are not going to just watch as our country goes down the drain. I really have to congratulate our young brothers and sisters for standing up for what they believe in, and I hope that that fire will not die down. The likes of us in our generation, I wish we had that. We were protesting, getting arrested, getting beaten, getting blacklisted, and our fellow generation mates would just tell us, yes, continue.
They'll never join.
You know, yeah, mtetezi, tutete. But I am thrilled that the lawyers in Gen Zs, the doctors in Gen Zs, the psychiatrists in Gen Zs, the farmers, they all came out in huge numbers to say we will defend our country. So that's number one in terms of painting the picture. The second is that despite the intimidation, the threats, now we are being told, I don't know, a number of members of parliament and NGOs that are, supporting this. Let's be very clear that anti-government protests are not illegal. When you go to protest, you're protesting against something bad. So if you go out to the streets and you say, we don't want this finance bill, we are against the government for pushing through this finance bill, that is our constitutional right under Article 37. The word protests in itself is negative. It means there is something bad. That's why you're going out to protest, to say no. So anti-government protest by and in itself is not, there's nothing wrong with protesting against the government. What is wrong is the criminality that was witnessed yesterday, the criminality that we saw in maybe 1 or 2 other days, when people break into homes, when people start attacking others, when they start destroying property. That is not acceptable. And I think I've seen a video that has now gone viral of some youth attacking a police officer. This cannot be entertained, cannot be condoned in any form. So we reject those individuals, those goons that we've seen attacking businesses, attacking individuals, snatching phones, that must be condemned. And these are individuals who are actually portraying the peaceful protesters in negative light. Okay. And we have to call them out as such.
That is another question that I wanted to ask. And the first question, because you've been on the street, I'm really interested to know if you have been cited and your NGO has been cited for sponsoring this protest.
I don't know. I mean, they didn't give out the names, so I don't know who they're referring to as NGOs. But yes, for me and my NGO, yes, we did participate in the protest because we believe the issues and the matters that were being presented to the Kenyan government were genuine. We did not support the finance bill. I can confirm that. For me and my NGO, we rejected the finance bill. Okay. And I have no apologies for that because that's the fact of the matter. And there is nothing illegal if you decide you don't agree with the government. We are in a democratic dispensation. Okay. We have a constitution that allows us to speak up against anything that we feel, as long as you do it peaceably and unarmed. Okay. And I think 99% of Kenyans who've gone out there were peaceful, they were not armed, and they were merely exercising their constitutional rights.
The point we knew this was organic was when we saw different people, different way coming out. But the moment we start seeing printed placards, printed T-shirts carrying the same message. We saw coffins yesterday on the streets, for example. This is a moment we start feeling that this thing is sponsored. It's not organic anymore, because an organic crowd will not have time to do that. They'll just come out and protest.
I'm not sure, because, everyone has played a part in this. I think people who are posting on their Twitter handles, on their TikToks, that they're printing T-shirts. I would be alarmed if all T-shirts that were seen out there had one message. I would say, okay, then probably there's someone behind this. If all posters had one message, but you could clearly see for Nakuru, the poster was different. For Lodwar, it was different. People were just picking, oh, they've done their poster for Nairobi, we need to do ours for Mombasa, and people were posting. It was on all Twitter handles that I'm doing my T-shirt, and the message was different. My government, this, and another one saying that. I don't think that means that there was a particular order or structure. Okay. For me, I still believe at this point in time that this movement is very organic and has been very organic. I believe there is no single team or individual who can claim leadership of this movement, and I think that's a very, very good point.
You haven't answered my question. For example, the kind of what we saw yesterday, you cannot have all those coffins, almost 8, 9 on the street without someone being behind them.
I think you can do that, Ken. If you decide as Ken Mijungu, our people have died.
Uniform?
Let's go. No, for 3, 4 guys, you can decide, let's go buy coffins. We from Mathare, we want to do this, or we from Githurai, or we from Nakuru, we want to go. And, T-shirts, we've seen many T-shirts with a similar message. So I don't think personally having 5, 10, 14 coffins, 15, 16, 20 means that, it's just a bunch of guys maybe that have decided to do that. And I wouldn't say that that in itself would mean that there is leadership in the entire country. If I had seen same coffins in Nakuru, same coffins in Kisumu, same coffins in Mombasa, then I would say, hapa, there is something.
I'm coming back to that point, but I promise that today we'll be taking call-ins, right? So you can call us on the numbers on your screen, and we will be sampling some of them. Let me first take a phone call from Kisii County, and Nyamongo, I am told, is now ready to speak to us. Nyamongo, what are your concerns as a Kenyan? And I'm really interested also in knowing the demography, where you fall, not for any particular reason, but just for the benefit of other people who are watching. What are your concerns or questions that you have for us?
My concerns are... hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
My concerns, Mujungu and Hazun, is that the riot that took place in Kisii, it is not the Generation Z that did the problem. The people who did the problem are sponsored goons. What I'm wondering is why the government is wasting a lot of money, because those goons did not come to the street without being paid. Look at the case we saw in Mombasa. Look at the case we saw in Kisii. Look at the case we saw elsewhere. They should stop killing our children. At 61 years old, I've never seen this. Are we going down to South Africa when they were killing children and singing? The president should think otherwise. He should listen. Let them stop wasting money by sponsoring people to go and rob and blame that situation to the young people.
Okay.
Let them stop it.
Let them stop it.
Please ask Hussein there to look at the right. How 5 coffins be found in Nairobi and not in Kisii and not in Kisumu? Who sponsored this? You should stop holding people responsible. Now the disappearance, what really annoys is that why should you arrest somebody just because you saw his picture in the marching and he disappears? Are we going back to those areas of Moi? Are we going back to those areas? We are asking our children in the streets, keep up. How much? There is no freedom without us losing people. When we were fighting, when the Mau Mau was there, when the universities were fighting, when Kinarengo were fighting, they ended up, many died away. But tell our president, our dear president, that all the youngsters, apart from me, I'm not a young man, I never voted for him. And we told the youth, this person you are voting is not a right person. But since you have voted him, we can toe the line. But he has refused to toe the line with them. So let him think otherwise. Let him stop killing our children. We are bitter.
Nyamongo, I'd love to ask you a question. As a parent at 51, that is Gen X, right? Yeah, that's Gen X. How far would you go to support your children who are going for the protest? How far would you go, Nyamongo?
They should go out there and look for freedom. There is no time freedom was
Yes. How far would you go, and would you support your children to take to the street if that
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. Finally, what have you observed in Kisii? What have you seen in the last few days, the last 3 weeks? What did you see?
The first demonstration in Kisii was very peaceful. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
The first demonstration in Kisii was very peaceful. It's only yesterday that it turned chaotic. And it turned chaotic because of the police. Why should the police throw a tear gas to people moving? And this resulted to our children running to kiosks to look for water. Mm-hmm. And this is what the goons took a part of that and started robbing now.
Okay. Okay.
The police should have protected the people in Kisii, like in Kisumu. There was not a big riot in Kisumu. And Kisumu is known for riots, and that's where I've stayed for many years.
All right. Nyamongo Nyamwena, thank you so much for speaking to us from Kisumu. We'll be going to Mombasa shortly. There's a phone call from Mombasa, but your reaction, because I think there's a direct reference of an issue to you from Nyamongo.
Yeah, true. First of all, just to agree with him, no freedom without struggle. In the history of mankind, there is no single time when people enjoyed freedom, when people enjoyed liberties without going through a struggle. So we commend the Gen Zs for coming out and saying this is their struggle, and they want to ensure that they have, the freedom that they so much desire. I think he raised the issue of disappearance, particularly to me. Disappearance is a major concern. I think the abductions and the missing people is a real concern. And as I said, these people who are being picked at a later point, again, they're being returned, and then others are being picked or they are missing. I think this is something that the state must definitely address. Yeah. We were hoping to have IPOA here today, because that also falls within their mandate. Yeah. We have the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights that is also supposed to address this issue, but also the DCI and the police, because at the end of the day, the duty and responsibility of investigating falls squarely within the National Police Service.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be getting back to that. We have requested for an interview again with the Inspector General of Police, and we're glad he honored us. The first ever interview and the only one he did on this set. So we're trying to get him back. But let's cross over now to Mombasa, and Mama Leila also has something to say. Please, also, just for the sake of the viewer, the demography, where you fall, and your concerns and your question if you want to ask a question to us or just contribute to the show. We can hardly hear Mama Leila.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, habari zenu.
Mzuri sana.
Mimi nataka kuuliza huyu jamaa huyu wa haki Afrika. Tumekuwa huwa anasimamia human rights. Kwani polisi si human rights? Kwa sababu sana anasimama na hawa vijana wa Gen Z. Alafu swali lingine nafaa kumuuliza. Polisi akisimamia vizuri, kama anataka kusimamia mali ya mwananchi, akipiga mtu risasi anaandikiwa mashtaka. Sasa na huyu polisi ni kijana ya mtu na ni bwana ya mtu, sasa anaona kuliko apoteze kazi, anaangalia tu, kwa sababu akipiga mtu hata kama ni rungu ataandikiwa mashtaka. Alafu wewe unastahili kusimama na Gen Z, kwa sababu haki Afrika ni human rights. Kama ni human rights, unafaa uwe polisi wameumia, utuambie ni polisi wangapi wameumia, usisimame na upande mmoja.
Okay.
Alafu kuna
endelea.
Alafu hawa vijana ambao wamepikwa, kama wewe unasimamia hao Gen Z, mbona wakifika kotini hatukuoni tena ukiwatoa? Wengine wameandikiwa bodi ya laki moja. Vijana sasa wanaovea jela, wengine 40 wanatafutwa. Hatujasikia ukiwatetea angalau tena wale vijana huenda walifanya makosa, ni wengine ni watoto wako na 17 years, hatujakuona. Wewe ni kusema tu polisi, watu wameuliwa, na kweli kabisa. Tukiangalia huyu jamaa wa Mombasa alivamiwa, wewe hukuwepo angalau naye uongea na hao vijana wako wakataze. Maskini wa Mungu akawa anatinga ile biashara yake. Mwisho wa siku ameshikwa yeye, wale vijana hawakushikwa. Wewe unatetea binadamu gani? Mimi natatizika na kazi yako, mbona unaegemea upande moja?
Shukran sana Mama Leila kutoka Mombasa, asante sana. And she has a genuine question. Yeah. Where do you draw the line? Because the policemen also have human rights.
Yes. True.
And then secondly, who takes care of these young men once they are taken in, right? Yeah. And they're given bail and they can't afford it.
Yeah. Number one, polisi pia wako na haki. We have to be very clear on that. Kama mama alivyosema, police also have rights, and we have been at the forefront. I think, you know, and this is what I always tell my friends and colleagues in the police service. Whenever they see me, they say, wewe unatetea tu watu, unaangalia upande moja, just like Mama Leila is saying. But then you see, when you deal with police officers, their issues are not public issues. You can't discuss police matters publicly and call press conferences with police officers the way you would do with members of the public. So we have followed up on many, many cases. But then at the end of the day, let's also remember that the police are charged with the responsibility of safety and security of Kenyans. It's not the public that has that responsibility. So they also enjoy the monopoly of security services and weaponry and all that. So it cannot be that the way you deal with the police is exactly the same way that you deal with members of the public. Hiyo haiwezekani. Lazima tujue kwamba hawa ni maaskari. These are people who have been trained. You know, so mama anasema polisi akienda akipiga rungu, akipiga risasi kwa yule ambaye anafanya haya mabaya, kwa nini unaongea? I have to, because hufai kupiga rungu na kupiga risasi kwanza. You're supposed to arrest that person, not kill them. Hiyo sio mimi nimesema, hiyo ni mujibu wa sheria. Sheria inasema you arrest that individual, particularly when you can. In the incident in Mombasa hivi juzi, tuliona this wanton destruction of property. Polisi wakiwa 50 meters, 100 meters away. Kwa nini hawakwenda kuzuia wale watu waliokuwa wanafanya hayo mabaya, hayo maovu? Kwa hivyo lazima tunapoangalia hili swala tujue kwamba polisi na raia sio watu ambao utawachukulia kwamba they are at the same level. Yeah. They are not. Polisi ni watu ambao wamepewa majukumu ya kutekeleza, na yale majukumu ni ya kuhakikisha usalama. Haiwezekani kwamba polisi sasa yeye ndo awe anaenda anaua bila ikiwa kuna uwezo wa kumzuia na kumshika yule mtu. Ndio kwa maana sheria inasema kwamba reasonable force. Polisi wanaruhusiwa kutumia reasonable force kulingana na ile hali iliyoko pale. Ikiwa ile hali inamlazimu yule polisi kupiga risasi, na sheria iko wazi kwamba unaweza ukamuua mtu ikiwa huyo mtu ako katika hali ya kuhatarisha maisha ya mwingine. So hiyo inaruhusiwa. Lakini haiwezi kuwa kwamba mtu anaandamana, as we have seen everywhere, peacefully, and then you tear gas. Koti huku inasema do not use tear gas, do not use water cannons, alafu polisi bado wanaenda wanafanya hivyo. It is very clear that sisi wenyewe kama wananchi tunafaa tujifunze sheria, tunafaa tuelewe polisi wanafaa kufanya kazi katika hali gani, ndio tuweze kujua vile tutaweza kusaidiana na hao polisi katika kuleta amani.
We will be taking a few more calls, but let's get back to our discussion earlier as we wait for the calls. And this is also very important. Oh, before I go to that, these young people who eventually come out and they are unable to secure their base.
Yes. I want to confirm here that Wakenya wenyewe wamechanga. Na kuna baadhi ya mashirika ambayo yana majukumu tofauti. Hadi hivi sasa kuna watu wengi, hata sielewi tunaposema kwamba kuna wale ambao bado wako ndani. Mimi mwenyewe nimetembea katika vituo kadha wa kadha kufuatilia. Juzi nilikuwa Rongai, kituo cha mwisho ambapo nilienda kuangalia wale wameshikwa kwa sababu kulitoka order ya hawa watu wote waachiliwe. So mimi mwenyewe personally I was in Rongai kufuatilia. Na tulipofika pale Rongai tuliambiwa kuna walioshikwa 64, na tuliambiwa kwamba hawa hawajashikwa kwa sababu ya maandamano, ila ni wale walioshikwa waliokuwa ndani ya ile supermarket ya Clean Shelf ya kule Rongai. Kwa hivyo tukasema ikiwa polisi hawa wameshikwa kwa madai ya uwizi, kwa madai ya kuvunja na kuingia, basi hapo sisi hatuwezi kuingilia kwa sababu that is a criminal offense. Lakini ikiwa mtu ameshikwa kwa sababu ya protest, kando na kwamba watu wanashikwa, mpaka mabili ya hospitali yanalipwa. Nafikiri dadangu Hanifa, tumekuwa katika mstari wa mbele, Boniface Mwangi na mashirika mengine katika kusaidia wale waliofariki. Tumetoa fedha za kusaidia na mazishi na matanga. Hakuna familia hata moja hivi sasa ambayo mtu wao aliuawa katika haya maandamano ambaye hajapata ufadhili, na ikiwa yuko basi yuko njiani anaendelea kusaidiwa ili kuweza kusimamia yale matanga. Na hizo sio fedha zetu, sio fedha za shirika lolote, ni Wakenya wenyewe walitoa wakasema tunachanga ili kusaidia wale ambao watapata shida. Kwa hivyo haya ni mambo ambayo lazima kila mtu aweze kuyaelewa na tuweze kufahamu ni nini kinaendelea.
All right, we take two more calls. So Raphael Kagire is joining us from Juja before we speak to Paul, who is in Gilgil. Raphael, good evening and welcome to the show. Tell us also, for the benefit of the people who are viewing, the demography and your concerns or questions you can raise with us and with Khalid. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, Raphael, go ahead.
Okay. My take is we have been asleep as a country and the old people due to several reasons. One, we have witnessed some fighting all along, and all the demonstrations we had have been chaotic. But with Gen Z, who have never experienced whatever we have, because of the constitution we have, the 2010 constitution,
yes,
you don't and benefit the fruits. Because whatever we planted as a Constitution 2010 is what Gen Z is now able to go up to that tree and bring down the fruit.
Sorry, the mobile subscriber.
All right,
but
we just
now,
okay, we're still on the call.
But now we have a problem. Our government, whoever are there in the police service, in the MPs, everybody is still in the old constitution prior to 2010. They are acting as if... Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Raphael.
They are acting as if we have not gotten the 2010 constitution. And that is where our big problem is.
Okay.
We should all move ahead and come past 2010.
Okay.
And that way, everyone will be able to be acting right. And we have a social problem. Whereas, if today I'm a police officer and go to work, I will change and not become the person I'm used to be. I behave like a policeman. If I'm a doctor, and I was so impressed by the doctors this time round, at Kenyatta they were waiting for the protesters. We saw them waiting for the protesters. And when the protesters were brought in, they addressed the issues very well. But when we have like a society problem, according to where you work, you behave like this.
Okay, thank you.
But, hello?
Yes, Raphael. I think you have made your point. People should recognize 2010 Constitution. Raphael Kagire from right here in Nairobi, Juja. Let's now speak to Peter Mwai from Gilgil. Peter, are you still online? Good evening, and please share with us your perspective. All right, Peter is not ready, but we'll be coming back. I think that is something that has been said so many times, that if only there was fidelity to the 2010 Constitution, things would be different in this country.
I think kuna watu wengi bado tunaishi katika ile fikra ya kitambo ya zamani. There are many people, and I totally agree with Raphael, who are still in the old Constitution. Unajua ile ya lazima chifu muwe mutakuwa na mkutano, ukiiba kuku unapelekwa kwa chifu. We still have that generation, na unfortunately, unfortunately, hao ndio wengi in those offices katika zile mamlaka. Na it is difficult for them to fathom that people have changed and the time has changed. That people are coming out in hundreds and thousands all over the country, to say no to the finance bill. I mean, for all those years, finance bill imepita, hata people didn't even know there's a finance bill.
People didn't even pay attention.
Exactly. People don't even, but this time round, so they are wondering what is happening. They're confused, and I agree with Raphael 100%. We have a social problem where you have a generation that is so woke, wanajua what is happening, they are reading, they are informed, against people, the rulers, those who are in authority, who are in another generation, who don't even understand what these youth are saying. Like when you stand up and you go and you greet the police officer, I mean, in our times, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you can never imagine that. You wouldn't imagine that. Exactly, during a riot.
And ask for their number.
And the numbers, So many don't appreciate that, they don't understand that. And this is a social problem, and I agree with Raphael, that we all need to appreciate that the country has moved forward.
Yes.
And we are never going back. We are never, I hear people saying they want to take us to the old days. We will never go back there. Tumepiga hatua, and with this generation, forward ever, backwards
never. I need to let you go, but I think it would be injustice if we have another call. Okay, as we wait for the final call.
Yes.
All right, I'm told Peter Moy now is ready from Gilgil. Go ahead, you with your concerns or questions either to me or to Hussein. Go ahead, Peter.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Niko nauliza. Hello.
We can hear you, please go ahead.
Nauliza. Basi nataka kuuliza wewe jamaa swali moja.
Yes.
Ameongea juu ya polisi wamekuwa trained. Na ikiwa polisi anaweza kuwa kuna bunduki na muandamanaji anamrushia mawe kama ule tuliona Juja, atafanya nini basi?
Okay. Peter has a question.
Yes, a good question, and nasema kwa mujibu wa sheria, hata sio mimi na kujibu. Sheria inasema kwamba polisi wanaruhusiwa kutumia ile kwa kizungu tunaita reasonable force. Yaani kutumia nguvu kulingana na ile hali pale ilivyo. Kwa hivyo ikiwa yule muandamanaji, yale mawe yanayorushwa huenda yakapoteza maisha ya mtu, sio kwamba hata ni yeye mwenyewe polisi peke yake, mtu yoyote pale yuko katika hatari ya maisha yake kupotea, mtu kuumizwa, mali kupotezwa, then polisi anaruhusiwa kutumia risasi. Na ile risasi pia vile atakavyoitumia pia anafaa angalie, nipige risasi nimuue, nipige risasi nimzuie asiweze kurusha mawe, nipige risasi. Kwa hivyo kila hali lazima iangaliwe kwa mujibu wa ile hali. Na yule polisi tunavyosema amefunzwa ama akona training, ni amefunzwa kuweza kutathmini ile hali na ajue ni force ya aina gani. Kitu ambacho sisi tunapinga kama wanaharakati, kama mawakili na wengineo, kitu tunachopinga ni kutumia nguvu kupita kiasi. Hapo ndipo mahali ambapo sisi tunapinga. Pale ambapo polisi anaweza kumkamata mtu, kumshika, kumweka pingu na kumweka kwenye gari, na badala ya kufanya hivyo akatumia risasi akamuua, hapo ndio sisi tunapinga. Okay. Tunasema haifai kuwa hivyo.
And I think majority of the protests we've witnessed the first and second week were largely peaceful.
Yes.
There were no stone throwing. I mean, when Rex died, there was no stone throwing.
Exactly.
There was no stone throwing. So to answer Peter, perhaps, is the first person kuchokoza mwingine. Because if the street protests are just about agitation, they never turn violent. And we see them every day. We cover, and tomorrow, if there are protests, we are going to cover it.
Yes.
There's just where it's sparked from, and then it's all hell loose.
Yeah.
And everyone is for himself. At that time, I think, but as a lawyer also, there's the justification for reasonable force against someone who's throwing stones and you who's using a live armor on them. There is a justification, and I think that is where IPOA comes in. Because again, the police have to protect themselves. But what happens to them, I guess, I'm just getting into a conversation that doesn't belong to me.
No.
It's a two-way street. The police have to protect themselves. But why, for example, would you be dispersing a very calm crowd, just chanting, waving their handkerchiefs and with tear gas, for example? So that's where they draw the line, not to justify that the police have also to be attacked by the protesters. All right, we have a few minutes on the clock. I wanted to play the video of the week, and then I'll give you your final comments. I don't think we'll be able to get another caller, but if we have the video of the week is basically from Mombasa, as the peaceful protesters were standing, wondering what was happening just a few meters from them. And of course, also pay attention to what happened in Eldoret last week on Thursday, and also today, when armed individuals were on the streets with clubs, rungus, and the batons to contain the peaceful protest. And that is where the question of who sponsored them came in. And they had no police. In spite of having those batons, there were no police in their company, and they were patrolling the streets of Eldoret. So this is our video of the week. All right, those are the contrasting pictures. If you look at the protesters, they were unarmed, totally unarmed. I look at the people, so that is where, again, the question comes in, who sponsored these people to break the peaceful protest? Because they didn't even have police company. But your final thoughts as I let you
go. For me, it's just to let everyone know in the country that we are extremely lucky to be living and to see what is happening in this country during this, period. And the role of the Gen Zs in pushing forward the changes that we have seen all along. I think the question is then, how do we make sure that we play our part? Once you sit, you feel that this is the right thing, then please let us go out and push for what we believe is the right thing. At the end of the day, we must stand up for what is just. The words of our national anthem, justice be our shield and defender.
Yeah.
So let everyone be guided by that. Let us not just point fingers because you don't like a person. Let us not just support a decision just because you like that person, but let us all be guided by what is just and ensure that we are able to push forward justice to prevail in every corner of our nation.
As I let you go, I'd like to read 2 comments from Gabriel Mwanganjoni, who says, when the government announced that it will deploy military, I was wondering what fight they were going to do. Who is an enemy here? Unarmed civilians is who the military wanted to battle. The use of excessive force was very open and it must stop. And Chris Ogalo says to this question, orders from above. A good way to conclude my discussion with Hussein Khalid tonight. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. And once more, we'd like to state that this conversation we thought would be very balanced tonight. But the gentleman who was supposed to come for the show tonight, that is J.M. Wanjohi, who is a commissioner with IPOA, decided, in spite of the fact that he had confirmed to come for the show, that he was not going to come. So we left that seat for him in case he came, but he didn't. It was a no-show for tonight. And he's a public officer who needs to speak to Kenyans. So we pay him to speak to you. And he decided tonight he's not going to be on the show in spite of the fact that he confirmed. Well, as I leave Hali to go, the United Kingdom is gearing up for a crucial